That's Mondale in Minnesota. We're going to do it this time, and the nation will be with us. Fritz? Ladies and gentlemen, as one mayor in this great country, it is my greatest honor to introduce one of our great mayors, but more than that, one of our great, great Americans, and the mayor of the host city of Atlanta, Georgia. The whole world knows that Andrew Young marched with Dr. Martin Luther King and carried on when he fell. That Andrew Young was the first black in the 20th century elected to the United States Congress from Georgia. That as ambassador to the UN, he opened the doors of America to the third world nations. But as a mayor, I have watched with wonder as Andrew Young has forged new partnerships here in Atlanta and between Atlanta and the rest of the world. With $52 billion worth of new investment and with new jobs for 50,000 Atlantans, this man has led the way for the nation's recovery. With a good heart and with a brilliant mind, this minister of the people has shown the world what can truly happen in a city too busy to hate. Fellow Democrats, I present to you with great pride and with great hope for Atlanta, for Georgia, for America, Mayor Andrew Young of Atlanta.
Coming together on an occasion such as this. We've been a long time getting ready for this convention. We started way back with Franklin Roosevelt. We started putting together the rivers and the streams and making the Great Lakes that you flew over under the Tennessee Valley Authority as part of the New Deal. We continued under Harry Truman as a GI Bill brought back America's young men and involved them in our 29 colleges and universities. We watched under Harry Truman as a Marshall Plan allowed Coca-Cola and RJR Nabisco and Lockheed and Georgia Pacific to become truly multinational and global companies. We saw our great President John F. Kennedy challenged us as a Southland to begin to work together, and as Martin Luther King and John Kennedy forged a coalition of conscience that led to the sacrifice of them both in behalf of the ideals and privileges that we now enjoy. And then we watched as Lyndon Johnson, the last vice president that we nominated from this convention from Texas. And we watched Lyndon Johnson work together with a congressman from Harlem, Adam Clayton Powell, and forge for America, North and South together, a great society. A society that gave us a full-fledged public school system, and a society that gave us the opportunity to train teachers and doctors and lawyers and engineers that have helped make this a great Southland. And so now, following the administration of Jimmy Carter and our working together as a state, pulling people together, black and white, rich and poor, we finally find ourselves ready to host this great convention. And so, when Governor Joe Frank Harris and Chairman John Henry Anderson and Speaker Tom Murphy and the Chamber of Commerce and Michael Lomax, our Fulton County Commissioner, and all of the people of the state of Georgia decided to invite you to come to our city to host this convention. It was one of our ways of saying thank you to the Democratic Party for all that you have done for Atlanta, for Georgia, and for the Southland. And we want you to know that we have learned the lessons of the Democratic Party, that we are able to work together, that in spite of the fact that Governor Joe Frank Harris is a proud conservative in the Georgia tradition, and I am equally proud as part of the liberal Georgia tradition, that we have worked together to bring this state together, to have this convention in the kind of situation that we have presented to you these last few days. But all of the work is not done. We need to elect another Democratic president. We will need a Democratic president along with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House to work with Democratic governors and mayors. And we need you to help us deal with the problem of homelessness. We need you to help us stop the flow of drugs into our communities. We need you and the Democratic Party to pull together a global economy that makes it possible for those Georgia and Southern corporations and all of the American corporations to export their goods and services and end the exportation of jobs. We need a Democratic president to put together the kind of foreign policy that would mean that Nelson Mandela in South Africa would never have to have another birthday in jail. And as we come together as a party, and as we put first and foremost the election of a Democratic president by all of the elements of the Democratic Party, we will then fulfill much of the promise, much of the opportunity, and much of the hope for which Democratic leaders have given their lives. We're here at a time that we reflect 20 years ago after the death of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy. And America's hopes and dreams were seemingly crushed out with the assassination of those two marvelous young men. And yet we have managed to maintain the course. We've managed to make up sometimes for what we didn't have in national leadership by mayors like George Latimer and Don Frazier, and mayors like Bartholomew in New Orleans and Dick Arrington in Birmingham, and mayors like Ed Koch in New York, who have struggled and struggled and struggled against all kinds of problems. And all of us mayors get booed sometimes because there's no job that requires you to take tough stands and make hard choices like being a mayor of one of America's great cities. And yet that's the challenge. That's the kind of challenge for which the Democratic Party prepares us. And that's the kind of challenge that we, the citizens of Atlanta, extend to you as you come to us on this wonderful occasion. We hope you enjoy our Southern hospitality. We hope that our 50 state parties gave you enough greens, enough ribs, enough, I hope you even had some grits. And I know that the hospitality will continue. I know that the friendly environment that we have tried to create will leave us with a strong party challenged to go on and give the kind of leadership to this nation and the world that only you Democrats can give. God bless you, and thank you for coming to Atlanta.
Our next speaker